Hi everybody, welcome back to the course on Mastering IELTS Writing for Task 2. Today we're going to have a look at conclusions, how to write conclusions effectively and how to write conclusions quickly in order to finish with style and leave the examiner with a good impression. So, first of all, let's begin by looking at an example conclusion. Now, what I want you to do here is to read this conclusion and match each sentence, and there are two sentences, with its purpose. So match sentence 1 to 2 with its purpose A to B. So, in conclusion, although renting can be useful for people who need a home on a short-term basis, this convenience comes at a high cost. In my opinion, the benefits of renting are outweighed by the drawbacks, and I would prefer to buy a property rather than to rent one. So, we've got two purposes here. We have summarizing the key points, and we have giving your own opinion. Which sentence does which? Not a difficult one, this one. Of course, the first sentence summarizes the key points. You can see it in useful, or the positive is that renting offers a short-term basis, but the negative is that it comes at a high cost, high price. And in the second sentence, we're giving our opinion. So if you remember from the different question types lecture, we will know that this essay is likely to be a discussion and opinion essay, and so we're giving our opinion. If you are in a discussion essay, you would not give your opinion here, or you would not need to. So some really useful words and phrases for conclusions here. Your conclusion should really try to include all three of these things, especially if you're in an opinion type essay. We need to introduce the conclusion with a cohesive device, such as in conclusion, or to sum up, or having looked at both sides, or to summarize. I think in conclusion is perfectly fine. I don't really think that you need to experiment with too many other forms. In conclusion works perfectly fine to introduce your conclusion. Then we want to follow up with a linking device like although, or while, or whereas, or despite. That allows us to look at both sides of the argument, summarize both sides of the argument cohesively. And then we need some language for expressing an opinion, like in my opinion, or personally, or in my view. So let's look at how these might be used. To sum up, while there are disadvantages to handwriting, such as compromised readability and a greater time commitment, these must be weighed against the cultural and practical benefits that handwriting offers. Personally, I feel that these benefits outweigh the drawbacks. The most important thing here is the summary of the argument. We're not just saying, to sum up, while there are pros, there are also cons. We are actually saying what those pros and cons are. The pros being cultural and practical benefits, and the cons being compromised readability and greater time commitments. Make sure you do include the actual arguments that you're making, as well as just saying there are pros and cons. In conclusion, despite the convenience and lower cost homeschooling offers, we must take into consideration the dangers of fewer social opportunities and real-world experience. In my view, these drawbacks outweigh the advantages. So what we've got here is, again, we have a linking structure with the use of the word despite. So because we're using despite, we can look at both the pros and the cons within the same sentence, and it's very structurally cohesive. So the positives being convenience and lower cost of being taught at home, but the negatives being fewer social opportunities, making friends, and real-world experience. Combining those into the same sentence by using despite. Some good language here as well. These must be weighed against. It's a good way to, again, link your positives with your negatives. And again, we're doing the same here. The benefits outweigh the drawbacks, linking the positives with the negatives. And as well here, we must take into consideration. So after despite, after while, we can use these sort of bits of language to further improve our conclusions. Now, when it comes to problem and solution essays, the conclusions are a little bit different. In the problem and solution essays, as well as summarizing your main points, you should also state who you think the responsibility for solving this problem or these problems lies with. So, for example, in conclusion, although, notice the linking device here, in conclusion, although modern cities face a variety of problems, such as crime and air pollution, these problems are not insurmountable. Notice down in the bottom corner there, insurmountable means impossible to overcome, impossible to tackle. In my view, it is the government's responsibility to tackle these issues, and they should begin by considering some of the solutions proposed above, the solutions that you've written about. So this is a nice way to finish up your problem and solution essay. Summarize the problems and then state who the responsibility lies with to solve the problems. What happens if you're out of time, where you're struggling to finish in time? The most important thing is that you do finish the essay. So rather than worrying about writing 2 sentences for your conclusion, if you're struggling for time, you should try and just write 1 sentence instead of 2. It's very important that you have a few minutes at the end as well to go back and check your essay. So how would we do this? Well, what we can do is we can combine the summary with the opinion. So pulling those 2 sentences together, and this is how it would work. In conclusion, despite the culture shock and potential high cost of moving abroad, I believe that the prospect of broadening one's horizons is a positive which outweighs all negative. So what we've done here is that we've pulled both parts of the sentence, of the 2 sentences, together. We've pulled the summary of the key points towards the opinion, and we've combined them in a single sentence. We did that by removing the "there are also," or "these must be weighed against," or "we must take into consideration." We swapped that out with our opinion language. We swapped that out with "I believe that," or "my view is that," or "personally I feel." And by doing that, we are covering all the parts of the task that we need to. We're covering the need to summarize the key points, and we're covering the need to give an opinion. And so that can really help us to speed up our conclusions. Just a quick note as well, broadening one's horizons essentially means expanding one's range of knowledge or interests or experiences. So when we talk about people going abroad, we often say that they're broadening their horizons in one way or another. So that is conclusions. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments field. And if you would like to have your writing checked, please remember that you can go to www.theieltsteacher.com/writing-corrections, and professionals are able to correct and mark your work for you there. Okay, we'll see you in the next video.